What's going on, everybody? Alex Rudy here again, as usual. Thanks for dropping by. Today, I wanted to talk to you guys briefly about tripods and my experience when it comes to different tripod designs. I don't claim to be a tripod expert. I'm just like you guys, and at some point, probably very recently, I've actually been looking for tripods and trying to gather all the information online that's available and kind of make a decision as far as what I need for my particular situation. And that is hopefully what I'm going to impart to you guys today, is that particular knowledge. I know that everybody will be using their tripod for their specific needs, and I don't claim to cover every basis, but hopefully by the end of this video you guys will be a little bit more informed with regards to what specific features might be important to you, what specific features might actually just be a waste of money. Let's go ahead and get started. Usually, this is, by the way, one of my tripods. It's a Manfrotto 290 Lite. Is a tripod that I actually came across in Best Buy. So this tripod was retailing for $200, and it came with this tripod head here that I will be screwing on for you guys and kind of showcasing this tripod. But for those of you guys that may not necessarily be aware, most of the time when you're looking for a tripod, it will come with two components. There's the tripod head that you see right over here, and the tripod heads will be of all kinds of different varieties depending on what you're looking for. And then there's the tripod legs, which will also have their own sets of features that may or may not be important to you. Let's talk about the legs first. So in this particular case, as far as what we're looking out of a tripod, well, for one, we're looking at the different weight categories. How much can the legs support? How much is the tripod itself as far as the weight of it? Is it mobile? Is it a travel tripod, or is it a tripod that is basically very stable, very heavy, but you don't really carry it around much? In this case, this Manfrotto 290 Lite, made in Italy, is a relatively light tripod. And what happens is you have the regular 3-leg extension like this with these little clips, which I have found the clips to be a relatively good feature. Some tripods will have a screw-on, and I will show that in a second because I do have another tripod that has these screw-on things. The reason why I don't particularly care so much about the screw-on things, as you will see shortly, is because you really have to make sure you tighten them to be sure that you didn't accidentally not tighten one of the legs, because what might end up happening is there's a lot of them in this case. Look at this. There's 2 here, there's 2 here, there's 2 here, so that's 6. So if you're in a hurry and you're trying to expand your tripod, one of the legs didn't get tightened properly enough, you set it, you turn around, you go to your spot, and you look back, and your camera is on the side on the rocks, and that's not what you want. Nobody wants that. But in this case, where we got the little clips like this, we are more or less going to be a little bit more sure that once you clip it, unless there's something wrong with that clip, you don't need to tighten anything. Once you push the clip down like this, that should be secure for this particular tripod. And that's one of the things I like about it. Now, when you do set it up, the full length of it is, well, it's about this high. But, we're not taking into consideration the head of the tripod, which in this particular case, the head that did come with this one was this fluid motion video-centric head. And I'll talk to you guys briefly about all the different features. But once you put that on, approximately after all the extensions, you're looking about this much. And I'm 5'10", so it's good enough in most situations for most people, especially if you're doing any type of work where you want that to be somewhat of a face level. It's not completely face level for me. It's more like the upper chest area, but in most situations this will suffice. If I wanted to put a camera and what I'm doing like right there, I could get away with that, and I could just film right there in front of it if that's what I was looking for. Some people will want a bigger, taller tripod if their situation calls for having to be above something. They might want to look. So that is a very important feature for a lot of people, as they want to know how far the tripod extends. Some of the more expensive, elaborate tripod legs can extend as far as 70 inches or even higher. I think 70 inches is a little bit above me, so that's a good, that's a good situation if you're looking to have a tripod where you're really filming high, so you can get that steep angle. Or maybe if you're somewhere in a situation where there's a lot of people, there's a big crowd, and you want to be filming above them, that might be what you're looking for. Some of the tripod legs will have some kind of a connecting mechanism that connects all these. We've seen that. This is a very cheap and expensive tripod. I don't even know if you can consider this a standalone tripod. I think that this particular tripod was something that came with a cheap toy telescope or something like that. But we also have these little hinges that open up the legs, and I like the hinges. But then right here in the middle we have this sort of a expandable, collapsible little plastic part right here. So what that does is it kind of allows for the legs to be a little bit better supported, because it keeps all the legs together. Some tripods, the legs can extend further than you need them to, and you can get in trouble if you forgot to lock a particular leg and then the leg swings out and your tripod goes to the ground with the camera. In this particular case, as I will show you here, I'm not really worried about that particular aspect, because right here at the very top, okay, these, I'm going to go ahead and pull this in right here, okay. If you guys can see right here at the very top, we have these like little latches. So the leg will expand up to a certain point and then it won't expand further. But what you can do is you can collapse the leg a little bit and then you can click this latch to the side. So it only has two. It can click one way or it can click the other way. You can't do it in the middle. It just goes one way or the other. If you do it one way, what happens is the leg extends further. And so the difference, for example, between one click like this is the extension of this particular tripod. That's as far as the legs go. They don't go any further. But if you collapse it a little bit and you click all these out, you get a little bit further out. So this allows for us to have a little bit more stability with these legs. And I know a lot of more expensive tripod legs, they have a feature where these legs will come out pretty far in situations where you're using a tripod. For example, if you want to photograph landscape and you want that tripod to be very, very close to the ground, in maybe like you're trying to shoot a lake and you want to get as close to the water as you can so that you can get as best of a reflection of whatever it is you're filming. A lot of people do that. Another thing I wanted to mention to you guys is also the material from which the legs are made will determine in a lot of cases not only its stability but also its weight and how portable it is. So some legs come with carbon fiber, which is generally a little bit lighter than aluminum. In some situations it is aluminum. The carbon fiber and aluminum are the two main ones that we see. Carbon fiber is going to be more expensive. It's a little bit more rigid, and but aluminum in a lot of cases will suffice for a lot of people. It's really not going to save you that much weight. So my recommendation would be to look around and see, not based on whether it's carbon fiber or aluminum, but based on the features that it has. Okay, so now that we talked about legs and I've covered in this situation for this particular tripod, in a lot of cases we'll have this particular attachment, which is just this little screw that you see here on the top, and around the screw here we have a little bit of a rubber and a little bit of plastic to make sure that once we screw the top part in, it'll actually securely be screwed in. Once you put the head on top, this is kind of how it looks. And now let's go ahead and briefly talk about the head of this particular tripod, the 290 Lite Manfrotto. Okay, it has this little fluid head design here, and you have this little part that unscrews a little bit, and depending on how much resistance you need, and then you have this really nice fluid sort of motion that we see right over here. You have a little screw here on the bottom that gets unscrewed, and you have a really nice fluid motion here. So you have two motions, one that goes here that you see, and then one that goes here. A lot of the video-centric tripods will have the heads of the tripod have this design where they will have fluid heads inside, and then you can increase the resistance, meaning how much do you need to press here to get the motion going. If you really want a quick movement, you may want to unscrew it. But in some more expensive heads, it's not just a screw, but it's a screw with dials, or sometimes you have a lot of a more precise way that you can do this, okay? And that's probably what will be the determining factor in the price of a lot of these tripods, is the fluid mechanism and how precisely can you get it to where it will move the way that you want it to move, okay? So in this case, it's a very rudimentary. I'll unscrew a little bit here, it gets more loose. I screw it back in, it gets a little bit tougher, okay? So same with the bottom one, but it's a very sort of a rudimentary screw mechanism. If you look at some of the Manfrotto heads that are specifically made for video-centric people, it will have a lot more little aspects of it. If you look at SmallRig, they have a lot of video-centric tripods that are very advanced, and they have all kinds of different side knobs that ensure that you get the specific fluid motion that you need while you're filming your video, okay? On the top, we see that it has this really long, and the length of this allows you to basically put a larger camera with a little bit more weight, so that way it will distribute the weight out in such a way that you can utilize this head and everything's stable. The camera will be looking, this is the back of the camera and this is the front of the camera. The only thing here that I don't necessarily like about this particular tripod design, and it might have to do more with the head, there's no horizon leveling, okay? If you notice, the only two knobs that I'm noticing here is you got the knob here, and then you got the tilt, okay? And my question to you would be, in this particular design, where's this, okay? Where is this? I've done several videos on using this tripod, and I thought I was close enough, but I wasn't. And then I was sitting like this. And then I had to move in my editing, I had to actually flip the video a little bit, but then I lost some of the pixels in the corners, which I didn't necessarily like. But yeah, I was sitting slightly like that. On the camera, when I started filming, it looked great, but I guess it wasn't. Now, I talked to some other people, they said, why don't you just adjust the legs? Yeah, but I could have the legs adjusted, especially like if you're out in nature. You can have the legs adjusted to where you feel like, yeah, that's pretty close, and then you've got this little thing on top right over here. It's a little leveler, so in a lot of cases, if you think you're not fully close, you know, you just adjust. But that's a headache in a lot of situations, for me at least it is. I don't like to have to adjust the legs, and then I have to readjust them a little bit, and then maybe I want to move to another spot and maybe change the angle real quick, and then I have to remember which leg I adjusted. And it's just, to me, it's a big hassle. I don't like to adjust the legs. I want to be able to take the legs out fully if I need that height, and then just adjust slightly the head, because in a lot of situations, if I'm choosing a ground to put the tripod on, it's already going to seem to me like it's a very flat ground, but just a few degrees here or there will make a difference once I actually start filming. So I just need that slight bit of measurement by actually moving the head, okay? So there's my rant, okay? I love this tripod, but I don't like this tripod head. And a lot of video-centric tripod heads that you will see, go ahead and ask yourself, how do you adjust this part right here? If it doesn't have that adjustment, then the way that you're adjusting it is you have to adjust one of the legs, okay? So it's not the best thing you can do. Some of the other tripod designs will have a different type of head. This is an example of a head from Neewer. This is a ball head, okay? It's like a ball friction thing. And in this case, you can adjust it. So you got this little lever here, you unscrew it, and you can position your camera in any particular way you want. It's got this little side here, so when you have it all the way screwed on top of your tripod, you can swing it sideways, and that's a really good feature if you're doing like vertical videos. You can just swing this sideways all the way completely, and then secure it back, and you've got it, okay? So the only thing that sometimes can be a little bit of a problem with these particular tripod heads is because depending on the size of the ball and also the type of tightening system that is being used, it may not necessarily support as much weight as you'd like it to. And in most situations, if, let's say, I'm going to try to here, if your camera is sitting straight, then it's not really putting off balance forces to the extent where it would push, okay? It wouldn't, but once you start leaning the camera, all of a sudden those forces start increasing, especially if you have a big camera rig setup and a lot of extra stuff like your monitor and all that stuff. It's basically a lot of extra weight, and if you're not within that sort of top zone here, what happens is all of a sudden, let's say you have it at a more steep angle, boom, it does that sometimes. You're not aware of it, and most of the time the tightening is okay, but you really have to make sure you tighten it well. And sometimes I've had it to where my camera will just like slowly start tilting, even though I tightened it, because I had too much on my camera and because I probably should have used something different. So this is great for somebody that wants like a quick adjust like this, and then they don't want to mess around with all the different hinges and everything like that, and they're ready to go. Okay, in this particular case, as we've seen already before, if you are wanting to readjust the angle of your camera or switch or do whatever, you have to do this, but then you have to tighten it back up or whatever, and then you have to do this little guy on the side, and then you have to change that angle. So you have two different adjustment levers that you have to deal with, and then on top of that you have to adjust one of the legs if you want that level with the horizon. Okay, that's a lot, especially for some people like you and me that want to change their camera angles a lot. Like if you're traveling or something and you just got your tripod in your hand and you're always picking it up, putting it down, picking it up, putting it down, you want a quick adjustment. You don't want to have to worry about, a long adjustment. This is the most recent purchase that I've made. I actually bought this used on eBay. So the way that this particular tripod head works is that you have this grip handle, and Manfrotto actually makes a couple of these different designs. I'll shoot you guys a link below to this particular design so that you guys can make sure you differentiate this between some of the other ones. I think this is the most heavy duty one. I believe on the Manfrotto website it retails for close to like $250, which in my opinion is a little bit more expensive than I'd like. $250 is enough money to actually buy a full tripod, not just one tripod head. I don't know why they're charging so much. Not a lot of people use these, but it is what it is. I bought mine used on eBay for $105, and this is the actual model. So the way that it works is on the very top we have this tripod shoe or whatever it's called, and we actually have a double locking mechanism. I'm not sure if you guys will be able to see. Right over here we have this initial locking mechanism, but it won't extend past this point. And then we have this other one on the right over here. See this? Once you push that, you can actually remove the tripod. This part right here, okay, this is the part that we will connect to our camera. And on the inside here, Manfrotto has a lot of these, and they make very similar ones. On the inside here, you have this little ring here, and then you attach it and screw this into your camera. The nice thing is that in some older designs they might have just like a little screw with, like, you needed to have a coin to screw it in, but in this case you have this little ring, so you pop it out and you screw it into your camera. On this part everything's kind of rubberized, which is really nice because that kind of pushes against the camera and it provides the extra grip to make sure that it doesn't move around once you fully attach it to your camera. So this particular housing here, actually, as you can see, it's got sort of these walls, so it's not an arc design. So that means you have to use this specific part. You can't use other ones because of these little corners here, and because of the way that it's designed. It's almost kind of a squarish like that, okay? But I actually really like this particular design because it makes things very simple for me. I like simplicity, and I like to have my tripod work quickly. I don't like to have a bunch of different adjustments, and in a lot of situations I'm not really too worried about creating movement in my videos. That's one of the things I'd like to elaborate on here in just a few minutes, but I set this up on top of my tripod. Here, I'll actually screw it on. Screws on exactly the same way, so I'm using this more nowadays. On the bottom here, it has a little feature here called the friction grip, and you can actually, basically what happens is if you want to create to where it grips around this ball here, but not as much, so you can still sort of push this in cases where you need to like create movement while you're filming. You can have that. But I have this tightened fully. I don't need to worry about that. Once I push this handle here, and the handle is kind of really sort of tight and hard to push, but once I push this handle, I have full range of motion of this tripod. So I can adjust the horizon, I can adjust the front back leveling, I can adjust whichever way I want to, okay? It does not have this particular way that is like once you screw this in, if you want to turn it, you actually have to ungrip it and turn it, okay? So every motion comes from this head here, okay? Forward, back, up, down, and it supports, I think it supports like 8 pounds or something like that. It's the most heavy duty one along this particular line. I don't know why Manfrotto charges $250 for it. Like I said, it's enough to actually buy a full tripod in a lot of situations, and that was the dilemma that I was sort of encountering it. I was looking at a lot of different websites. I was looking at SmallRig, I was looking at Manfrotto, and I really liked the idea of having this sort of a simple grip. I didn't want to mess with anything else, but I realized also how expensive it is, and sort of that was pushing me to almost towards buying a full video-centric tripod, okay? So let me show you this here real quick. I don't want to waste too much of your time. Just get screwed on like this, okay? And then that's it, you're ready to go. Whatever it is, you know. If your camera gear, of course, if your camera setup is too heavy, then possibly you might run into a situation where if I push really hard on it, you know, I do have to push hard, but as you see, it's not designed for a very heavy setup. I'd probably say the camera that I'm using right now, which is the Canon R6 Mark II, together with the 24-70 f2.8 RF, probably a total package of close to maybe 3 pounds, maybe somewhere in that range would be sufficient. I can do this and it won't really. But if I were to set additional things, or maybe use a bigger lens, or possibly maybe use a bigger camera, this may not necessarily work for me. But currently, this is probably the best tripod setup that I have, just because, like I said, I'm using these particular tripods to create videos as I'm doing right now, and I'll actually show you a couple of different tripods before I leave. But I don't need to create motion. That is something that maybe some stores out there might want to sell to you, because if they think that you're buying a tripod for creating videos, they might think, or you might think, that a video-centric tripod, a specifically video enabled tripod is what you need. So you'll pay the extra money, and in some cases you'll have to pay later on by realizing that the tripod that you bought might be heavier, a lot heavier in fact, and then you won't have certain features that you'd like to have, or that every little knob needs to be adjusted separately. And then you'll say, wow, I really wish I watched this video, because in my particular situation, if I'm doing my videos, I'm not introducing video motion. I don't need motion. A lot of times motion can be confusing. And so I need to just make sure I have a situation where I have it set up like this and I'm ready to go. And I want to change the angle quick, I got it changed, you know. This is the easiest thing for me, and it really works. It might not work for you, but it works for me, okay? So there are, of course, some specific situations. If maybe, let's say, you are a freelance videographer and you've been commissioned to, let's say, film a wedding, okay? And then the bride and groom are walking down the aisle or something. Yeah, you need a nice smooth motion. But then again, you know, possibly you might want to take your camera in your hands and gently walk with it so that you can create different angles in your videos. But that's a story for another time. You know, in some situations this works for some people. You need that smooth motion in your videos. But for me, for what I'm doing, I just need to set it and start filming. I don't need to worry about anything else, and this works great. Another tripod I'd like to show you guys before I conclude. I do have this other tripod right here. This is the tripod that's Sunpack Travel Light Pro. And the one thing that I really like about it is once you fully put this tripod together, it fits into my backpack. So you can put it in your backpack. In my backpack, inside, I put it right next to the camera. Some people prefer to have it outside because they don't want their camera gear scratched up, which I understand. But even if you had this outside, you had it strapped to the side of your backpack, it doesn't take up a lot of room, as you can see. And the reason why this particular design works for travel situations is once you unfold it, it actually unfolds backwards. It unfolds into itself. So the way that it usually sits is once you have it set up like this, then this is the part that I was telling you guys before. See these particular legs? If you wanted to open these up, then you have to screw them back in, okay? You have to open it up, you have to screw them back in. And if for some reason, in this case, look how many parts there are, okay? We have more, I have another one, okay? So in this case, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 4 knobs on each side, that's 12. Was it 12? Yeah, that's 12. That's a lot. That's a lot. So that's a lot of little, yeah, sure, they get unscrewed pretty quickly and then you can kind of close everything. But if you missed one, or if something malfunctioned, down goes your tripod with the camera. Another thing that if you see like right over here, this particular design, I don't necessarily like this. It has these little knobs right over here and they get expanded out slightly, and then there we go. And then when you expand it out, it actually goes all the way past. That's how it's able to go all the way up like this. And then if we look closely, it has these little ridges right over here, see? Hopefully you guys can see it. See these little ridges? So what you could do is you basically close this all the way, then you have it to the first one. Or if you wanted to bypass that and go a little bit further higher up, close it on that one, and you got a further extension of the leg, as you can see right over here. But it's a very confusing and not straightforward process. And if for some reason you thought you closed it and you didn't close it, or it slipped or something, and it was open, one of the legs was open, down goes your tripod with the camera, okay? So it's a little bit of a confusing configuration. I really wish that they had something more along the lines of those little clasps. This is a lot more straightforward. You know your legs are not going to extend past the point. But the reason why they have this is, like I said, because these legs will actually contract upwards. And then what you do is you put this up like this and basically put all the legs right up to it. And then we have a very small tripod. This is the reason why it works. This is the reason why they call this the travel tripod from Sunpak, because it doesn't occupy too much space. And you close this little thing here, and it's even more compact. There you go. This can fit in any little backpack, briefcase, that type of thing. On the top here, we also have, I think this is an interchangeable, yeah, it's an interchangeable top. So theoretically, I could use this with my other head. Like if I wanted to use it with the tripod, the Manfrotto grip one, I could just use that instead. If we compare the two heads here, these are a little bit more comfortable from this particular Sunpak design because they have the knobs here are covered with rubber and they are a little bit easier to use. But you have a very similar design. You unhook this one and your little head goes everywhere. You unscrew it more and it goes more, and then you screw it back in. Make sure you screw it back in tightly, and then it supposedly stays where it is. Same here, got a little knob here, and that will allow it to be turning wherever it is you're turning. You're still getting good fluid motion here. It's just, I don't know, I think that the smaller the head, in a lot of cases, the smaller this head, the less the weight of the camera that can be supported on it, because if the head is bigger, a lot of times the gripping mechanism that goes around that particular ball will allow it to have more friction and therefore prevent it from moving with higher weight. If the ball is small, the mechanism that comes in contact with it, the little friction plate, is not as small, so the surface area is smaller, and as a result, the amount of weight is also smaller that you can put. But I was able to put my camera on this particular design. Actually, with my previous video that I did on microphones, I was using this particular design and it worked out well for me. The only thing with this particular Sunpak travel tripod is just make sure that all the legs are screwed in and everything's nice and tight, and then make sure that the little side latches are all nice, and you almost have to like feel them, because if one of them slips, down goes your camera. Okay, actually it all started a while back when I didn't have a tripod, and I went to Best Buy. This was years and years ago, and I basically was looking for some kind of an inexpensive tripod option to do my videos, and I ended up picking up this little really inexpensive, I think it was like $59 at Best Buy. It's the Sunpack Ultra 6000 PG or whatever, and it's I think it's an aluminum tripod. It's relatively light. It has this little part at the bottom that keeps the legs from expanding, and you have also these little clips, which I really like. You have 3 of them total. It does expand out to a relatively high base. You have this part here at the bottom that allows you to sort of put this top part here to the height that you'd like. And then what really kind of made me enjoy using this tripod is this grip design. You got the little handle here on the bottom, and boom, it just goes right against this little head here. I've never had issues with it tilting or anything like that. It's got this little grip part right over here, so you can, once you find it, you can put the tripod on the side to do vertical videos if you want to do it. And just like the other one, it's got a nice little grip system, works great. Uses this little part here at the very top, just kind of unhooks. Just uses this, can't use an arc plate. And then it has this little attachment here. Super easy to use. Super, like, I love this tripod. And that's probably the reason why I ended up getting that Manfrotto extension, because I was looking for something like this. Because at some point, this became garbage because it started to wobble and stuff. And I started using this. I used this forever, and then it just, this top part always wobbled, and everything kind of wobbled. It just wasn't secure. And then one of the things I realized is, in the beginning it was fine. Eventually what would happen is I would kind of try to put this at a certain angle, and I really had to be as precise as I wanted to because I needed that angle. Once I would let go, the camera would slightly tilt, and I was like, ah, crap. So I didn't have anything bad to say about this tripod. I think it's still wonderful, and it served me well, and I didn't fully retire it, but I'm not using it at this point now. Maybe I'll give it to somebody who needs it. It's got a little leveler here at the very top. Let's see, right there. Hopefully you guys can see it. I've never used a leveler. I just kind of looked at it through the camera. So, but yeah, it's a really nice little light tripod. And Sunpack makes some great tripods, but not meant to last forever. Hopefully you guys have learned something with this particular video. Hopefully you guys weren't bored too much, but if you guys did enjoy watching this video, please be sure to consider putting a like and also subscribe if you're interested in watching more videos on this channel. And I'll be sure to make more if I see that there is interest. So see you guys next time, okay? Bye bye.